So Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori 2, the rematch, is now going to take place as the main event of UFC 263 on June 12th alongside Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 2 as well. I'm going to give my opinions on the news being broken that this is the next fight to take place in the middleweight division and the fact that Marvin Vettori is the next person to get a title shot in the middleweight division rather than Robert Whittaker. And I'm also going to discuss my opinions on the matchup and who I think is going to win, but we have so many things to break down here, and I'm just going to say first of all, I'm a mixture of emotions about this. I like the fight. I also believe I'm going to be very, very excited for this matchup to take place. Marvin Vettori versus Israel Adesanya 2. The storyline is already there. There's going to be a bunch of trash talk. It's going to be a big fight 100%. There's going to be a lot of generated energy before the fight starts, and it's going to be an amazing payoff, and I'm going to get those butterflies in my stomach when Marvin Vettori is alongside Israel Adesanya in that octagon getting his title shot. However, it's not the ideal move, in my opinion, at all. I would much rather Robert Whittaker have gotten a next title shot in the middleweight division. I thought it was all set for Robert Whittaker to get his next title shot in the middleweight division. And the fact that they said the only reason that they made this bout is because Robert Whittaker wasn't ready for June 12th, which is in 7 weeks, 8 weeks after his matchup with Kelvin Gastelum. That's the reason they moved on without Robert Whittaker, because he wasn't ready to turn around 8 weeks later after going 5 rounds with Kelvin Gastelum. Is just a little bit stinky to me, and it reminds me about the same time, not too long ago, when Robert Whittaker said, I'm going to be ready after my Jared Cannonier fight for March or April, and the UFC said, sorry, we're going to have to move on without you, and booked Israel Adesanya a fight in March. It really smells of the same situation, and I really do hope that Robert Whittaker is not going to have to take on another contender to get his title shot. He shouldn't have had to even take on Kelvin Gastelum. He should have already had his title rematch with Israel Adesanya. He is a champion who lost his belt, and not only a champion, a defending champion, whether or not you agree with the Romero decision or not. He was a defending champion, and he has had to win 3 in a row to get his title shot back, and now they have given it to Marvin Vettori. I understand that Marvin Vettori is going to take this opportunity that's given to him, and I'm sure he's very happy right now, because across the board, no one was saying that Vettori should get the next title shot whatsoever. Everyone was talking about Whittaker getting the next title shot. So for Marvin Vettori, I'm sure he's feeling pretty happy about things right now. I'm not sure if this is 100% official yet, but it has been verbally agreed, and they have an idea to make it around that event, and some websites like SB Nation or whatever have announced it as official, and the fact that it is booked for June 12th. So I do believe this fight is going to happen, because that June 12th pay-per-view card does need another championship bout on there, or just another big fight in general to complete it, because as much as I like Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 2, it's not going to sell the pay-per-views they need to sell on a pay-per-view. But why not give Robert Whittaker the title shot and just wait until August to make this fight? You know why I like this matchup and don't like it at the same time? I like the matchup. Vettori versus Adesanya is a good fight. I just feel like everything would have been so much better. I am not angry at this. I'm just annoyed that it could have been even better. We could have built the momentum of Marvin Vettori against Apollo Costa in the meantime, built his name up even more, and created even more interest for this rematch with him and Israel Adesanya. And also, we could have found out just how good Marvin Vettori is against a good contender in the division, because I'll tell you this right now, Kevin Holland, on 2 weeks' notice, after losing to Derek Brunson, is not a title elimination bout. What the fuck is going on in our sport right now? Why are all of these contenders getting title shots they have not fucking earned whatsoever? Marvin Vettori has beaten Jack Hermansson and Kevin Holland on 2 weeks' notice after losing to Derek Brunson, and he has earned himself a title shot. Those are the only 2 people that are ranked right now that Marvin Vettori has beaten in the middleweight division, and he has earned himself a title shot. I am sick of this shit. Masvidal's getting a title shot tomorrow night, and I was barely over that one happening with Usman as champion. And now Israel Adesanya's getting Marvin Vettori, and I feel like Marvin Vettori could be way better in a couple of months, maybe a year, who knows. And we could really have a really high anticipated matchup between Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori. But now, I think they jumped the gun a little bit too soon. We should have built up Marvin Vettori in the meantime and built that storyline even further. And we also should have given Robert Whittaker the title shot in August, because Whittaker has a bunch of buzz around his name right now after that performance against Kelvin Gastelum. He's probably not going to fight until they have the rematch with Israel Adesanya. I don't blame him. He should not have to fight against another contender in the meantime while they make Marvin Vettori versus Israel Adesanya. Maybe Adesanya's plan is to stay active enough to also give Whittaker a title shot towards the end of the year. But one thing I don't get is the bullshit, man. It's the fucking bullshit. Yeah, I'll take on Whittaker next. That's the fight we're going to make. Cool, everyone in agreement. Right now, every single fucking MMA fan that knows anything about the sport, we're all in agreement. Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2 is next, right? No. It's not next. In 7 weeks, Israel Adesanya just has to defend his belt against Marvin Vettori. As soon as Whittaker is finished with Kelvin Gastelum, what do you know? It's time to start a fight camp for Israel Adesanya. So in my opinion, that tells me the fact that they were willing to make this matchup 8 weeks after Whittaker fought Gastelum, when he already has to do a 2-week quarantine anyway after the fight, tells me they never fucking planned on giving Robert Whittaker a title shot, and that pisses me off beyond fucking belief. There is no way Whittaker would have been able to turn around that quick. This is not a case of Whittaker not being ready to take a title shot. This is the case of a champion pouncing on the opportunity to take on a premature contender and not have to fight Robert Whittaker in a couple of months' time when he actually has enough time to compete. I feel like this is just Adesanya capitalizing on a premature Vettori that is not going to have enough time to beat him and is not developed enough to beat him whatsoever, which is actually going to get to the early prediction and breakdown. I believe that Marvin Vettori is going to lose to Israel Adesanya. I don't see Israel Adesanya winning, but one thing I want to talk about first. I think Israel Adesanya is going to beat Vettori. I know I just said that wrong. One thing I want to talk about first before we get into anything else. Whittaker, what was my point that I had to make? Oh, yes. If this goes well, I am absolutely fine with it. But in my mind, I'm thinking about what if things go wrong. Because things always fucking go wrong in this sport of MMA. If things go well, Israel Adesanya beats Marvin Vettori. Fair play. Then he takes on Robert Whittaker at the end of the year anyway and stays active. Very good. We get 2 versions of Israel Adesanya this year rather than 1. And we get more big pay-per-views. And it's all happy days. I love it. But my mind doesn't work that way, guys. My mind works in the way, and I think the UFC's mind should work in this way as well. What if things don't go to plan? What if Marvin Vettori beats Israel Adesanya? Because he could. Jan Blachowicz got Israel Adesanya to the ground, and Adesanya didn't even know that he had to close his fucking guard. Alright? What if Marvin Vettori ragdolls Adesanya for 5 rounds? I'm not saying that he's going to. But what if he somehow beats Israel Adesanya, because you know it can happen? No one expected Jan Blachowicz to beat Israel Adesanya. Now there's a little bit of an aura of invincibility gone from Israel Adesanya. What if he loses? They're going to make a fucking trilogy. And how long is that going to fucking take? What if Israel Adesanya wins, but breaks something? That can happen as well. What if he wins but gets dropped and has a mandatory 5-month suspension? Now we have to wait even longer for the Whittaker rematch with Israel Adesanya, and all of that time that we are waiting to give Whittaker that title shot is time that Whittaker, who is not known other than what he does in the cage, Whittaker does not make headlines outside of his performances in the cage that often. That's something we can all agree on. Whittaker is not the kind of guy to steal the headlines next weekend or a couple of weekends down the line because of something he's done outside the cage just going to keep his name relevant. Whittaker's name was hotter than ever. Hot off the press, headline ability, Whittaker's all over the news around the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren area. We are now going to lose the build-up of hype of Whittaker's name as this fight drags on, and he's slowly going to lose all of the star power that he's just had after an amazing performance against Kelvin Gastelum by the time he eventually takes on Israel Adesanya. We're just going to lose all the buzz around Whittaker's name, and it's sad to me. It's annoying, and I like it if it works out. I'm just saying that again right now. I love this if it works out. I don't even love it if it works out. I don't mind it if it works out. Because I'd rather Vettori take on another contender. Because again, Kevin Holland is not a title elimination bout. The same way Nate Diaz isn't a title elimination bout. Nate Diaz got Masvidal 2 title shots. That's fucking bullshit. This whole sport is dumb. We're handing champions free legacy against premature contenders. And it's pissing me off so much. He's going to beat Marvin Vettori. Vettori's not ready. You couldn't outstrike Kevin Holland. You're not going to outstrike Israel Adesanya. I think Israel Adesanya has better takedown defense than Kevin Holland, proven by the Derek Brunson fights. Oh, by the way, Israel Adesanya fought a closer Derek Brunson to his prime, and he couldn't take down Israel Adesanya whatsoever in that fight, even while grabbing the shorts of Adesanya. I don't see Vettori ragdolling Adesanya here. Maybe he could have in time, but whatever. If they make a trilogy, Whittaker's not going to get a title shot. He's going to have to take on another contender. I just don't like the bullshittery around this right now, which is the fact that as soon as Whittaker was done with Gastelum, Israel Adesanya had to be in training camp. The second Whittaker was done with Kelvin Gastelum, the weekend after, Israel Adesanya, it's time for me to defend my belt in 7 weeks. Are you ready or you're not, Whittaker? I'm in isolation, mate. I've got 2 weeks of isolation. I'm not going to be ready for that, of course. Oh, well, I'm going to have to move on. Looks like Whittaker can't make it, guys. It's so fucking annoying. I'm sick of it. But that's okay. We're in the era of giving out free legacy. You know why? The UFC is so fucking desperate to have current greatest of all time fighters that they are trying to remove the history of the sport and just try and build up these records of champions to get defenses nice and high so they can start ignoring GSP at welterweight by having Usman be the greatest of all time, because if you can market your fighter as the greatest of all time, they're going to sell more pay-per-views. Israel Adesanya needs a couple of more wins before we get him to be called the greatest of all time at middleweight. I still think it's up for debate between him and Anderson Silva. I know he beat Anderson Silva, but he's only defended the belt twice, and Anderson was way past his prime. Either way, I think they're trying to get rid of the past and just pump up their current champions completely with premature matchups, non-stop. Why aren't the number one contenders getting title shots in these divisions with Usman and Adesanya as champion? It's pissing me off. But it's all good though. Whatever. If it works out, it works out. And Adesanya's going to stay champ. But I feel like it's just dumb. What if it doesn't work out? And Vettori beats Adesanya, and they have to fight again at the end of the year. And Whittaker's going to sit out for a whole year until next April to take on another fight. Now Whittaker's inactive, and that's an easier matchup for you. It just stinks, man. I hate this shit. What if Adesanya beats Vettori, but hurts himself in any way possible, and has to have a bit of a delay? Then we're not going to see Whittaker fight for the belt until the end of the year, and his name value is going to go down, and all of the buzz that we just generated by his amazing performance against Kelvin Gastelum, where he showed that he could maybe beat Israel Adesanya in a rematch, is now gone. Do we have him fight another contender if they have a trilogy between Vettori and Adesanya? Because otherwise Whittaker's going to have literally beaten the whole fucking division. Everyone right now, it seems like, has lost to Whittaker in the middleweight division. Like, he's just going to kill off all of the contenders. I don't understand. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I disagree with this, but hey, June 12th is going to be an amazing night of fights. It's an amazing card in general. Really stacked. Great co-main event as well, and I think it makes sense to put them both on the same card because you can promote it as 2 razor-close first fights that now we need a rematch for. I just disagree with the decision-making yet again, but who am I? I'm just a random guy with a fucking beanie on. Click that button up there. Goodbye. Like and subscribe. I'll see you later.